Hi everyone. Today we will be advising Gemilang Company based on two different costing methods, which is the traditional costing method and activity-based costing method, and we will be taking a look at the cost volume profit analysis for their company. Now, let's take a look at the team presenting today. The team includes Vasundhara, Jaya Ashwina, Gilda Bernice, myself, Shavandev Singh, and Muhammad Afiq Amrin. Before going in deeper, we'll first be taking a look at the introduction and the objectives set for this presentation.
This report aims to assist Gemilang Company in optimizing profits for its business training courses. The company offers two packages, a 2-day course covering basic financial management and marketing, and a comprehensive 5-day course including the content of the 2-day course, plus additional topics like cybersecurity, strategic management, and business continuity. The focus of this report is to provide financial management advice to help Gemilang Company manage its costs effectively, therefore achieving optimal profits for each course. These reports will employ two distinct methods for measuring costs, tailored to each course with a method specifically addressing the cost analysis of the 5-day course. Objective: to assess the company's overall expenditures for the previous year to determine rates for the future year for the types of courses offered by Gemilang Company to maximize profit. There is also a quick study to evaluate how changes in variable and fixed expenditures will influence the company profitability.
Now that we've got that over with, we're going to be taking a look at part 1 of our presentation, which focuses on the traditional costing method and the activity-based costing method.
Hi, I'm Vasundhara, and let's take a look at how Gemilang Company has did their calculation for each cost of job. Firstly, let's take a look at the traditional calculation method that they have done. First, they've calculated the cost per day, which is 2640, as you can be seen on the slide. And for 2-day course, they got a sum of 105,600, and for 5-day courses, they got a sum of 396,000. So to calculate both total of both costs, we have to plus 105,600 plus 396,000, and we get the total for both courses is 501,600. Moving forward, we have to take the activity cost divided by its cost driver respectively, and we will get its calculation per rate, which can be seen in the slide that is presented here. And then let's take our cost per unit of cost driver and times it with our quantity of cost driver, and we will get a sum of 128,640 for our 2-day course and 372,960 for our 5-day courses. And we take the total sum and divide it by its number of courses, which is 20. For a 2-day course, we will get 6432, and for 5-day course divided by 30 courses, we get 12432. Gemilang Company has used both traditional costing and activity-based costing to calculate its cost per participant. So for cost participant, for using activity-based costing, we take the total divided by its number of participants, and we get for 2-day course 128.64 and 5-day course 414.40. And for traditional method, we get for 2-day course 105.60 and 5-day course 440. Gemilang Company has decided to mark up its prices by 25%. So firstly, before doing that, the company has decided to round off its digits for its activity-based costing, which is 2-day cost to RM128 and its 5-day cost to RM414. So for our 2-day cost, due to the markup of 25%, we get suggested price is 161, and for the 5-day cost, a markup of 25%, we get a suggested price of 518. There are a few challenges that companies will face if they're using the ABC method for their company. Firstly, we have complex implementation. Implementing ABC is complicated, which is one of its main problems. Analyzing activity, cost factors, and organizations' procedures in depth is necessary before implementing ABC. Due to its intricacy, implementation is sometimes delayed and setup expenses are raised initially. An organization's whole set of operations must be identified and understood, and identifying the right cost driver may be a difficult process that takes a lot of time and resources. Next, we have data accuracy challenges. Ensuring data accuracy and availability is a key challenge in implementing ABC method for organizations. The efficiency of ABC hinges on acquiring precise information about activity and resource usage. However, obtaining accurate and detailed data in the real-world situations is often difficult. Inconsistent recording of time spent on activities by employee can result in incomplete or inaccurate data, compromising the reliability of cost allocation. This lack of precision hampers ABC effectiveness in delivering insightful cost information. Next, we have time and expense. Daily operational complexities can lead to oversight and incomplete data in implementing the activity based costing ABC method. The process, including initial setup, staff training, and accounting system reform, is time consuming and costly. Organizations may find it challenging to justify this upfront expenditure, especially if they believe their current costing methods suffice. Resistance within the company may stem from the need for additional resources and potential disruption to daily operations during the transition. Next up, we have real world difficulties. When it comes to real world difficulties, getting data for ABC implementation might be especially difficult. Think of a manufacturing business that is trying to implement ABC, for example. It might be difficult to identify every step in the manufacturing process, identify the associated cost drivers, and precisely measure the amount of resources used in each step. The complexity jeopardizes the accuracy of cost allocation. Solution integration with variance analysis. Firstly, we have enhanced cost analysis. Gemilang enhances cost analysis by integrating activity-based costing with variance analysis, utilizing real-time data integration for efficiency. This synergy reduces data redundancy, streamlining resources allocation based on significant cost variance. Resolving discrepancy between actual and anticipated costs, this approach achieves cost efficiency by balancing ABC's benefit with data gathering costs. Next, we have strategic implementation. Gemilang ensures success with integrated strategies to strong data protocol and efficient departmental communication. Adopting ABC method requires a clear vision, commitment, and systematic approach. Pre-development training establishes a reliable data system with defined goals, deadlines, and continuous monitoring. Active engagement with stakeholders is crucial for highlighting ABC's benefits. Pilot projects a refined system before full implement using diverse tools for data collection, analysis, and reporting.
Next, we're going to be taking a look at part 2 of our presentation, which focuses on the cost volume profit of the company.
Of activity as fixed cost or variable cost. In this case, the total fixed cost is 291,960, which are advertisement of courses, facilitators, venue, and rental of audio equipment. These fixed costs depend on time and are unaffected by variation in production volume. Variable cost is 81,000, which are food and beverages and activity materials for participants, which fluctuates to the scale and the scope of the program with varied levels of participation and cost offering.
Next, I will be explaining about the cost volume profit analysis, which is also known as CVP. It's one of the ways to find out how changes in variable and fixed costs affect a firm's profit or a company's profit. Companies usually can use the CVP to see how many units they need to sell to break even, which is to cover all costs or reach a certain minimum of profit margin. As you can see in the slides here, we have already calculated all of the sales and variable expenses and fixed costs for 900 participants. So as for the sales, we have decided to use the price suggestion as we have discussed in the previous slides, which is 518 ringgit Malaysia per unit, which is the totaling to 466 and 200. Next, I have simplified the variable expenses for 900 participants, which consists of activity materials for participants, food and beverages, and participants' enrollment, which is amounting to 81,000 ringgit Malaysia, and as per unit, it will be 90 ringgit Malaysia, which is 17% of the selling price suggested. We will have the contribution margin of 385,200 ringgit Malaysia, and as per unit will be 428 and 83% of the selling price. Next, we will moving on to the fixed cost for 900 participants, which is consists of consisting of advertisement of courses, facilitators, venue, and rental of audio equipment amounted to 291,960, and we will get the net operating income of 93,240. Next, we can plot the CVP graph by using the break-even point and the the calculation we have done on this slide. So moving on to the next slide. Next, after we have calculated all of the sales, variable expenses, and contribution margin in the previous slide, we can now proceed to applying the equation method as I talked earlier in the previous slide. So we can find the break-even point in units by applying the equation method, and as you can see in the graph in the slides here, I have calculated the break-even point for the sales, which is at 351759, and as for the participant, it's at 682 amount of participants. So in the profit area of the cost volume profit graph, the distance between the revenue line and the total cost line at any point equals to net income. And required sales are found by analyzing the differences between the two lines until the desired income, RM0, is found, which is the break-even point. The break-even point is the intersection of revenue and the total expenses line. As you can see here, the brown line is the brown line indicates revenue, and the orange line indicates fixed costs, and the yellow line indicates total expenses. And just for you, just for to let you know that the the graph on the left side will be the loss area if the company will the company fails to achieve the amount of participants or sales, and on the right side the company will achieve profit area if the company achieve more than that the desired participants or sales.
Next, we're going to be taking a look at the impact of change in variable costs. Before I start, let me explain to you what is a variable cost. A variable cost is a corporate expense that changes as activity of a business changes in volume. These are expenses that go up and down in line when business activities get busier. This means that the busier you are, the higher they go. Some of the variable costs from Gamilang Company are such as the food and beverage costs. So what happens when this cost has an increase or decrease? When this cost has an increase, the break-even point also increases in units, and when this cost has a decrease, the break-even point automatically decreases. So what should the company strategize for? The company should strategize for a decrease in variable costs because that means that the break-even point decreases, and with a higher number of sales, they are able to achieve a higher amount of net profit. Next, we're going to be taking a look at the impact of change in fixed costs. Now, what is a fixed cost, you might ask? A fixed cost is an expense incurred that does not change as activity of business changes in volume. It is basically an expense that stays the same no matter how much activity a business is doing. This cost is the complete opposite of a variable cost. Fixed costs have to be paid even if a business doesn't do any activity for the day or month. They tend to include regular recurring costs like cost of venue of Gamilang Company. So what happens when there is a change in the fixed cost? If the fixed cost increases, the break-even point also increases. However, if the fixed cost decreases, the break-even point decreases. So what should a company strive for? A company should strive for a decrease in the fixed cost, although it seems impossible because of some challenges. I say this because when the fixed cost is decreased, the break-even point decreases and they are able to gain a higher amount of profit with every sale. Next, we're going to be taking a look at the impact of change in fixed costs. Now, what is a fixed cost, you might ask? A fixed cost is an expense incurred that does not change as activity of business changes in volume. It is basically an expense that stays the same no matter how much activity a business is doing. This cost is the complete opposite of a variable cost. Fixed costs have to be paid even if a business doesn't do any activity for the day or month. They tend to include regular recurring costs like cost of venue of Gamilang Company. So what happens when there is a change in the fixed cost? If the fixed cost increases, the break-even point also increases. However, if the fixed cost decreases, the break-even point decreases. So what should a company strive for? A company should strive for a decrease in the fixed cost, although it seems impossible because of some challenges. I say this because when the fixed cost is decreased, the break-even point decreases and they are able to gain a higher amount of profit with every sale. Finally, we're going to be taking a look at the impact of change in sales volume. Now, what is the sales volume, you might be asking? Sales volume is the number of sales incurred for a product or service. It is basically the amount of sales that one has achieved for their product or service. So what happens when there is a change in sales volume? Now the unique thing about the sales volume is whether or not there is an increase or decrease, the break-even point is unchanged. This is because the sales volume does not affect the break-even point, whereas it affects the net profit. So what should the strategy be? The strategy should be to increase the sales volume. This is because the higher the sales volume, the higher the net profit.
Good morning. My name is Gilda Bernice, and I will be discussing the viability of the 5 day courses. In a commercial context, viability refers to the ability of the business to exist, be profitable, and grow. If something is viable, it means that it can work successfully. To assess the viability of the 5 day courses, the following assumptions were made. First, assuming that the pricing strategy with a markup percentage of 25% is reasonable based on the current market trend and socioeconomic status. Two, assuming that all courses had a full participation of 30 participants for all 30 courses throughout the year. Three, assuming that the course drivers used to calculate the activity based costing is accurate and reflects the recourse assumption for each activity. 4. Assuming all costs, such as variable and fixed costs, remain constant throughout the 12 months period. 5. Assuming that the fixed costs, such as advertisement of courses, facilitators, venue, and rental of audio equipment, isn't affected by the number of participants. And lastly, assuming that the variable costs, such as participant enrollment, food and beverages, and activity materials for participants, may vary based on the number of participants. Based on the previous assumptions, the contribution margin per participant for a 5 day course is RM 428. The break even point is 682 participants, or RM 351,759 in sales. Therefore, with a total number of participants of 900, we would not only have generated a revenue to cover both fixed and variable costs, but also generate the profit of RM 112,924, which makes the 5 day courses greatly viable. The viability of the 5 day courses also depends on Gemilang Company's ability to not only bring in participants, but also manage their expenses, well, by finding an alternative to lower the expense rate, but also deliver the same or better service quality. In conclusion, the 5 day courses appear to be strongly viable as it was able to generate enough sales to suppress the break even point, but also generate profit. By focusing on retaining participants by offering loyalty programs, follow up sessions, or exclusive access to resources, repeat attendees can reduce marketing costs and boost overall profitability. Gemilang Company can not only maintain the viability of its 5 day courses, but also potentially increase their profitability and impact. Continual assessment and adaptation are key to sustaining success in any venture. Thank you. That's all from us.
That is the end of the presentation. Thank you all so much for lending an ear.